This is GWEN Talks, where intimate conversations reveal, heal, inspire, and entertain. And now, here's your host, Tess Cacciatore.
Welcome to this GWEN Talks after the show and the award ceremony. Sheva, I adore you. It's been a long time since I've seen you, and my heart is beating with peace and joy to see you. So thank you so much for receiving the award this year. It's so much deserved. You are doing incredible things in the world. So I want to tackle all of it one bite of the apple at a time, because you are the consummate peacemaker. I think just right before this call, you were on a very urgent call with regard to peace building initiatives in Israel. So I want to make sure we tackle that. But welcome first of all. I'm just so excited to see you.
It's so good to see you again, Tezekiah. There you go.
Jessica,
It's been a long day for all of us.
I
Yes.
know. You can call me Tessica. People call me Gwen and Tessica. That'll be my new nickname.
But I do want your audience didn't realize that they're not just witnessing an interview. What they're really witnessing is a reunion of old friends,
Yes.
and collaborators. I mean, we've worked together and co-creators. We've created some really fun
The film festival, Operation Big Sister, Commission on the Status of Women 2 years in a row, and then. Every time I kind of pop by some of my photographs, when you're cleaning up archives, I pause and I go, "Oh, Chev, I love you."
Well, it's so mutual, Tess, and it's like, as so often happens in this world where we have momentary intersections with all of us who are wearing the same jersey. We're playing for the same team, but on different fields. And then we may not see each other for a long time, but we come home to each other every once in a while, and it's really good to see you.
It's good to see you too, so much so. And what's beautiful about it, and I think we can all witness to that, especially since coming out of where we came out of, where people weren't able to see each other for a couple of years. It's really the inner piece that makes it so whole, is that you don't have to necessarily be in each other's face and talk all the time. It's that soul sister thing that no matter how long it goes between, then there's just a sigh of like, oh, it's Shefa. And I'm so excited to be here and to be able to honor you and the work you've done. As I shared with you, it's just kind of like a miracle that this all came to be because of what's going on in the world, because we had another plan of doing the Jewish Community Center in Beverly Hills with a big immersive experience and all that. And with the war that broke out, I just felt like I want to sit back and hold reverence for what's going on there, and to stabilize our peaceful support to what's going on. And I want to talk about what you're doing there. But it was just an aha moment when I moved all of the award honorees of what was supposed to be happening on December 6th in Beverly Hills to March during Women History Month. And then I sat and meditated and I said, what do we do this year? I don't want to skip this year. And then it came to me, we need to honor the people of peace. We need to honor the people that are out on the foregrounds, creating curriculum, creating heartfelt and heart math programming. And the way you've carried that torch and have served so much in the world. What I've been doing with all the recipients is really going back to the root of who we are and talk about our childhood and where did you grow up? I think it was Northern California, but what was your first clue that you were going to be doing this kind of work? Because I know little Sheva was on a mission from the day you were born.
I love it that you said I grew up in Northern California, because I moved to Northern California when I was 40.
Oh.
And I definitely think it has taken me that long to get to the growing up part. But anyway,
we're still not grown up.
I mean, I spent my childhood, part of it in Denver, Colorado, but most of it in Nova Scotia. In Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Wow. Oh, I do remember that now. Yes. So tell me, what was your first
inspiration? And then
inspiration?
actually part of my teen years living in the Nicaraguan Civil War as an aid worker in my late teens.
So how did you get there? Late teens, Nicaragua War. How did you get brought there?
You asked about the first.
Yes, I'll go back to the first.
So my birth announcement was an FAO Schwartz greeting card of a teddy bear. So I was born in 1969, so the Vietnam War was, I believe, in full force, and the 60s were in their swing, and FAO Schwartz had a Christmas promotion and it was a teddy bear with a Band-Aid on it about basically toys teaching kids peace, not war. There was some kind of FAO Schwartz campaign, and my dad loved the campaign so much, he wrote to them to ask permission. He said, my daughter is going to be born this Christmas, and I would like to use your campaign as a birth announcement that she will create a world of peace.
Oh my gosh. That is,
I'm paraphrasing.
Like, speechless.
I should probably go get the book. I think my dad was a physician. He happened to work at National Jewish Hospital in Colorado. So that was his letterhead. And FAO Schwartz had a campaign, Some Toys Hate War.
Wow.
And
That's
wrote,
amazing.
my wife and I would like to congratulate you on your advertisement in the New York Times, November 16th. Because of our deep appreciation of your sentiments, we have decided to order our Christmas cards from you, since we feel that in a small way this will help to support your ad and values. And then he tells which card he's ordering, which is this one, and that's a picture of me, because I was born on Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh.
Our first child will be born in the next month, and we will be using the cards as a birth announcement. Thus, we firmly agree that your ideal, that no toy, so it's Georg Jensen, that must be a different toy company. I don't know where I got the idea it was FAO Schwartz. Our first child will be born in the next month, and we will be using the cards because we firmly agree with your ideal that no toy at Georg Jensen teaches to hate or kill. We hope our children and all children will grow up in a world where all share this ideal, not only for toys, but for themselves. And the birth announcement Christmas card says, may Sheva and all children grow up in a world of peace and justice. There it is.
I just want to cry right now. That is so divine. That's so perfect and so you and befitting of you. You were brought into this world to do the work you're doing. So you started to say something about being in 17 and going to Nicaragua. Tell us all about that.
I wasn't 17. I was 18 or 19 when I left. I mean, that occurred. So many of these things, are the unfoldment of unconscious trauma until it's recapitulated and healed, whether it's intergenerational, epigenetic, or even childhood and adverse childhood experiences. So that's kind of there's a deeper calling of all that, plus the level of the soul calling. But logistically, I ended up in Nicaragua because I went to a Quaker college. I know you interviewed, or you're giving an award to Scylla, who is also a Quaker. So I went to a Quaker college called Friends World College, which is now a part of Long Island University. And they had centers all over the world. And I ended up in their Central American Center doing cross-cultural interdisciplinary studies and peace-building theater. And that's how I ended up in Nicaragua during
That's
the.
amazing. What was peace theater like? Peace building theater. What did you do there?
So I did a field project for a while with a company called Teatro Nextiolero. They had been formed during the Nicaraguan Revolution in order to be part of the campaign for literacy, so that they did these theatrical productions and music and narrative storytelling to engage the population of campesinos and rural Nicaraguans to learn to read and write. The actual experience of touring with the company was different than the ideal, as is so often in the world.
Yes.
On the ground peace building, but that was the original intention of the founding of Teatro Nextiolero.
Amazing. So what was the journey after that? I know that you are a heart ambassador, you are the director of heart math. There's so many things I want to unpack, but I want you to kind of guide us through the chronological order of all that you've been doing.
First, let's be clear, I am not the director of heart math.
But you are the introductory to me and so many people, and you have developed that part of your life that you're bringing heart math, and you embody that anyway. You're so generous of spirit and kindness and peace. That's why, you were one of the first people I thought of with regard to this peace award for this year. So I'm going to let you guide the chronological order, because if I did it, I might just get it all wrong, because you do so much, including the whole thing with the Commission on the Status of Women when we went there, and all good things.
I'm going to take a breath through my heart. Maybe the audience or you would like to breathe with me for a moment.
Yes.
Yeah, if we just focus attention in the area around the heart together for a moment. And imagine the breath is flowing in through the heart and out through the heart. Breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Peace has been discovered by a team of researchers at HeartMath, not just to be a geopolitical agreement or a treaty or a conceptual ideal on a sign, but an actual physiological experience that accompanies the feeling in our bodies. And one of the ways we can start to access that feeling is to hack into our survival mode that pulls us out of peace, the fight, flight, freeze, appease mode. And 1,400 changes occur in our physiology when we come out of that into what I would call more thriving mode, or a state of peace, including changing how the brain works and how it perceives life and responds to it. And so the first step to hack in there and rewire yourself for peace can be, one step you can take is to invite the inhale and the exhale as you do what is called tactical breathing in some trainings for special ops, this chest focused breathing. My cat wants to get in on the act now that we're breathing. As you breathe in through the heart and out through the heart. So I'm focusing in the chest and imagining the breath is flowing in and out of the heart or chest area. Inviting the inhale and exhale to be even in length. So if it's helpful, counting as you breathe in and counting as you breathe out. And that heart-focused breathing begins to balance the autonomic nervous system. Some people doing it with us may already feel more subjective peace. Like last night I was driving these crazy mountain roads and feeling tense and not peaceful, and I did this. And I got home and asked my husband for a massage, and I wasn't tense at all. So it literally creates neurophysiological peace. But that part of what that changes is how the brain is processing reality, including this othering that creates violence and war. And so as we breathe in through the heart and out through the heart, we could tap into any feeling of peace we've had and attempt to re-experience that feeling with the breath and radiate it into the field. And I'm doing that right now for myself to explore how to answer your question, Tess, because this is what peace is about to me. It's not, it has almost nothing to do with my narrative. So I'm doing this breathing right now to access my own inner intelligence on how to respond to this question, because this is what peace is about to me. It's about choosing an operating system of peace, moment to moment, that isn't personal to me and that's available to everyone. And inspiring that. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the narrative of my life or the chronological events of my life, because it's not even about me. And certainly, I mean, it's so generous of you to give an award, but anything that I've accomplished at all in the field of peace building or in humanitarian aid and human consciousness has happened, first of all, on the staircases built by those that came before me and the team of angels that surrounds me everywhere, collaborating and co-creating. We're a woven fabric of peace of many threads. So what's beautiful, though, in you asking me these personal questions, which I don't think about at all. I don't think about my history anymore. I don't think about my past or the events of my life. I don't have the bandwidth to give it much attention, really. But I don't really think about it as the driver of my peace building work. Is that when I look back on it with you in this kind of retrospective cup of tea together, if you will, I can see how my commitment to peace itself has interwoven itself through my whole life and my exposure to violence and the suffering of that. And so how my life events, maybe a way to say it is how my life events have collaborated with my commitment to peace.
I love that. And I love that you're framing it that way, because it is important. The way you're sharing this, I guess anybody can Google you and find out more about what you've done and where you've come from, and to stand in that commitment to just being present and in the moment and breathing. What kind of tools would you say that you would like to share from your experience that would help the viewers here?
And if I was looking away because we're trying to get hardwired into the internet.
No worries, no
We
worries.
keep getting an unstable connection. And I think that's really what we're talking about when we talk about tools.
Yes.
Is we're talking about, most human lives have had glimpses of peace. Like my internet has been coming in and out, little glimpses of connection. And so the question is, like, how do we get hardwired? How do we get wired in to peace so that we can have access to it with more continuity? And I think it's a really good metaphor, right? Because when we're plugged into the internet, we have access to so much information and resource and things that can help us. And when you look at what can happen in whether it's a domestic moment of peace, and by that I mean, like a home with a family where there's a respite from the fighting, or a ceasefire like in Gaza and Israel, where then we're afforded the opportunity to get so many more resources in, basic needs met, dialogue about progressing what's possible, hostages and prisoners released, like So the more we can create peace as a continuity
Mhm.
at the personal and international level, the more resource we have access to as individuals and as a species.
I love that. So if you can share, because I know a lot of things are confidential in the world, with sensitivities of what's going on. I know that before our call today, you were attending an urgent meeting. Can you share anything about what's going on from the ground as far as you being able to help facilitate healing and peace?
Well, you asked about tools, right? And so if you think about the wire connecting me to the internet, that's a tool. And I'd love to just, do we have the ability to share a whiteboard? Can we do that, Tess? Or for me to share an image? Because that might help.
Sure. Let me see. I haven't done this on these interview sides, but I would be happy to share the screen. I guess what I have to do is make you the host.
Be a co-host, yeah.
Nope, I don't want to do that. We'll edit that piece out. Participants. There you go.
Beautiful. So just in the simplest of terms, not the best pictogram, but it will do. If you had to pick, Tess, which one of these lines would look like peace to you and which one would look like whatever you feel is the absence of it? Disturbance, aggression, violence.
Obviously, to me, the green one is peaceful, even though it rolls up and down.
Yeah. So this is the key piece of research that was published by HeartMath Institute in the American Journal of Cardiology in 1995. And these are actually pictures of heart rhythms.
Mm.
When we're in that fight, flight, freeze, appease, survival mode, which I mentioned earlier, changes how the brain works. So the higher cortex of the brain shuts down, which is the part of our brain responsible for dialogue and verbal communication. And the Dalai Lama said, if you want peace, or dialogue is the key to peace. And Desmond Tutu said, if you want peace, talk with your enemies, not just your friends. And the work that I've done in the past in Israel and Palestine, we worked under another Quaker motto: an enemy is a friend whose story you have yet to hear. So how do we build those friendships across the barrier of being able to communicate when we're in fight flight mode and our ability to talk and listen like you and I are doing with each other is shut down?
Mm-hmm.
We have to change our operating system to be able to achieve that. And this simple shift in heart rhythm, which people can do anywhere, anytime, changes the operating system and reopens that higher cortical function and verbal communication center of the brain. So now I have more options. If I shift my attention to the heart like we did together and breathe a feeling of appreciation or care, compassion, courage, kindness, or peace, that sends a signal up the vagus nerve and along 4 other pathways that opens up the perceptual centers of my brain for more self and situational awareness. Now I see you not just as other, I see you not just as for me or against me, but there's a whole field of possibility for me to discover more about who you are when I'm not in fight, flight, perceiving everything as a threat. And so that simple technique we did together from HeartMath, heart-focused breathing with the addition of the activation of a feeling called quick coherence. It's called that because it quickly gets the heart rhythm coherent. And this is where our work has overlapped with Scylla Elworthy's work, because she defined cycles of violence in her study of peace and violence. And all of the phases of the cycles of violence on Scylla's cycle are emotions, except for the inciting event. And so if we can learn as a humanity to self-regulate our emotional reaction to life events, then in building that capacity, and one of the things that I worked on this year at the G20 was getting exactly that ratified by the G20 countries, to value social emotional learning and emotional literacy and self-regulation on par with numeracy and literacy as foundational. This is what was written into the policy, as foundational to all education and employment in those 49 countries. And so when we learn to self-regulate our emotional response to things, not control it, but bring it into a state of coherent alignment with what we really care about, what really matters to us, then we become creators and advocates of the world we want rather than fighters against the world we don't.
That is so breathtaking. While we deep breathe. The juxtaposition of life. But I want to kind of drill down to the everyday person that's listening to you, because you work on such global scale. You know, being an advocate and a consultant in Gaza right now, and to be at the G20, and all of these things seem so unreachable for most people. Can we drill it down
I would add, I aspire to be an advocate in Gaza. At this time, I personally don't have any contacts or work going on in Gaza. I do work with both Israelis and Palestinians, but Gaza has been very out of reach for me personally as well, because the infrastructure is so unstable there, and it's very hard to get aid in.
Yes.
But
I have faith. I already envision you in there doing some amazing work.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
But I just don't, so that would be an aspiration for me as well. And
yes,
that's how I have come to do some of the work that I do, is I use this simple technique. So let's just say your audience has care for a global issue, whatever it is, or a personal issue, a family member you care about that's suffering. Every project I've started has always been initiated by focusing attention in my heart and radiating love and care to the people there. It always begins in the energy fields, actually, if I'm honest. And so for the people at home, that's what I would do. And the far-reaching things that you'll see on my website, or I just talked about the G20. I mean, those were pipe dreams. They were on vision boards, those things. I didn't know how to make any of that happen. So I started by focusing in the heart and sending love to people who had lost their homes in the fires, and then little by little to the Red Cross, who was helping them, and thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could help the Red Cross with these skills? And now we have an MOU and partner with the Red Cross because the chief nurse had dinner with someone that we'd trained in a hospital. So it's like when you add heart to what you're doing, you activate the magic of the universe.
That should be a bumper sticker and a t-shirt that everyone wears.
I mean, we're all partnering with all that is.
Yes. But I've seen you over the years, always doing the work. You know, I met you doing the work, but I remember when you went off to do the business plan for peace, and you went off the grid for a while and said, I'll be back soon, because you were going off with Scylla to create this whole master plan, and you were working in the
Okay,
hospital.
well, now again, Tess, you keep giving me credit for things I don't
I
take
know that
credit
it's her
for.
thing, but you went in
Yeah.
there and held the space, and that's an important part of the journey. And I totally don't take anything away from Scylla. She's magical.
You.
But I'm just giving you accolades of manifesting it, bringing it in, all from the heart space. So I'm kind of recapping what you're saying so that people that are, and so there's so much mental health issues and so much pain and fear right now. And so what I feel that I've been given is this opportunity, and it just happened and magically unfolded for me because I mentioned of the whole event that was supposed to happen for the awards, and then we moved it. I just opened up my heart and my space to say, what am I supposed to do? And it came in loud and clear: bring the peacemakers that you know, which are doing such amazing work, and bring them together. And I have to tell you, when you watch the whole thing, everyone is saying very similar things, even though they're coming from different walks of path. But I know out of all of them, you and Scylla had done work together. So talk about that project, because I think one of the last time we spoke, you were going off and doing all this work in the hospitals. Tell me about the work in the hospitals, because I know that's where there's probably a lot of fear. The adrenaline of being in the hospital, first off, the fear, the smells, the senses that are heightened when you're around other people that are sick, or if you're going through the journey yourself, or if it's a loved one. You know, this kind of replicates what we're going through in the world with regard to emotions and all of that. Can you share a little insight? Because, like, give me a cliffhanger from where you came from and how that hospital work did, because I know you did a lot of great work.
Well, thank you, Tess. So you've heard, if we keep it in, that my father was a physician, worked in a hospital, and my first job was actually working in his laboratory in his hospital. So I've always worked in healthcare. And I think that's an interesting intersection with peace building anyway, because if you looked at some of the dynamics in Israel-Palestine, for example, prior to this recent war, hospitals were one of the few neutral areas where you would have Israelis and Palestinians working side by side, treating Israelis and Palestinian patients. And so healthcare is one of those places that transcends, if it's done well. I could say it like this, as a co-vice president of UN Peace Messenger Pathways to Peace, there are 8 distinct pathways to peace that Pathways to Peace identified in the 80s with input from people all over the world. And one of those pathways is access to healthcare for all. So this basic care for our basic well-being, a fundamental human need, is a pathway to peace. And hospitals can be a nexus where that can ripple. So I've always worked in healthcare. It's always been a part of our organizational mandate to care for the caregivers and to inspire caregivers and nursing in particular to recognize that they are global peace builders on the front line doing the work they do every day. Certainly that was brought even more to the foreground in the war against COVID, if you will.
I was just thinking about that and wondering how that occurred, but keep going.
Well, and so then some interesting data started coming in, because peace, it's Sustainable Development Goal 16, is the least invested of all the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And there's poignancy to that in the fact that the UN was itself founded to sustain peace and stabilize international relations after World War II. And yet, the goal for peace is the least invested financially of all the goals. And so I had my team, and again, there's a certain, I will just say for the record, an awkwardness for me to receive an award, because everything is accomplished with a team. None of this can be done single-handedly. So I just want to say, if I'm receiving an award, it's really my team receiving the award and the teams that have worked with my team. Peace is a team sport.
Yes, it is. There's
It,
no I in team or I in peace unless you did it the other piece.
isn't that interesting? I never noticed that before, Tess, but they are both EA, right? Team
Yeah,
peace.
and peace, unless you spell it PIEC, like a piece of pie.
Well, and then we get into everybody wanting their individual piece, and that
Oh
leads
my gosh,
to battle.
this could be a book. I think this might be our next adventure. Peace versus peace.
Well, that's it. And
Yeah,
has a wholeness to it.
yes.
PE. It's not just a piece, it's the wholeness. And so this is a team sport, and I had my team analyzing data with me and looking at, because we wanted peace to be more investable. So it started there. How can we build a case for the ROI of peace, the return on the investment? And we analyzed different types of data. But the thing that really hit my heart when we were looking at it, at the time that I last spoke to you, which now was a couple of years ago, was the mortality data.
Mm.
And when I saw that, I could even probably bring up an image of it if I found it, but huge volumes of people dying annually of heart disease.
Mm.
Number one killer in every country around the world, surpassing cancer, surpassing respiratory illnesses, far surpassing violent conflict and terrorist attacks. Violent conflict, terrorist attacks, number 36 and 37 on the list of causes of mortality worldwide. Heart disease, number one in every single country, irregardless of socioeconomics, irregardless of pollution, irregardless of violent conflict. And it was a whoa.
Wow.
What I had been doing for my day job, which was teaching people to self-regulate their heart rhythms, and going into organizations, corporations, hospitals, and teaching people to self-regulate their heart rhythms to optimize their brain function, improve their communication, improve their performance, improve their health. What I'd been doing for my day job was the biggest peace building work I could do, because the violent conflict itself is caused by the same thing heart attacks are. Humanity's living out of phase with the heart.
Mm.
The heart of who we are. And when we, not if, we will.
Yes.
When we come into phase with the heart of who we are, heart disease will go down. It does go down. We know that. We have the data. And so will violent conflict. The dis-ease expresses itself in many ways, but the antidote is the same. It's to return to heart-based living. It's return to live from a mode of thriving love, care, compassion, collaboration. Those sound like very airy ideals, but they're really not. They're physiological changes that we can measure in a laboratory, that we can deliberately create with simple methodologies, that we can instill in internal and external cultures. They're available to all, regardless of religion, ethnicity, education, socioeconomic status. And so that was the pivot we talked about the last time we spoke, from conflict mitigation and negotiation to really self-regulation education.
This is so, it seems so mind-blowing because it seems such a simple solution. And the work that you're doing, it's just like breathe, get centered in our hearts. And then once we have peace within, we can have, and when I get to edit all these interviews together, there's such a beautiful common thread. It's like that drawing that you put on the whiteboard, that there's a common thread between all the people that have come together that I want to honor personally because of the work you're doing. I know there's teams, and I know there's the collective, but you, Sheva, I want you to receive the love that you embody. And I know you do. I know you receive it very, very well. But I also just want to say that you deserve it because you are bringing so much love into the world everywhere you go.
I so appreciate that, Tez. You're really pushing, like I feel tightness in my chest when you say it. I said this to my, my Heart Ambassador community. I let them know because I wanted them to attend this event to support you. And they know you from events that we've done together in the past. So I have a community of Heart Ambassadors who learn these skills for self-regulation, and we collaborate together as a team to bring this new kind of heart intelligence that I'm talking about to the solution seeking for the Sustainable Development Goals and the hairy, scary global problems we're facing, because we believe that the heart can solve for these things: hunger, water, climate change, violent conflict, human trafficking. This is like, we feel with hearts, we have a chance to turn the dial on this stuff. And so we are a team and we work for that together. And I told them that it was really awkward for me to receive an award because the feeling I have, aside from the fact that I wanted them to know it's coming to all of us. Because without the team.
And I do recognize all of the Heart Ambassadors and all the people that have gathered. But to me, you're the, impetus.
I'm a pacemaker cell.
Yes.
Getting the heart going with other pacemaker cells. But here was the feeling that I expressed to them that I feel is like, and I think it's valuable that you're putting me in this position, Tess, because it's a holdout of my own peace. Where it pains me greatly to bear witness to the suffering in our world and the extremity of the violence. And so to receive an award as a peace builder in a moment of extreme escalation of violence in the world feels, well, the best analogy I could say is it feels like I'm not even at the Olympics yet. I'm in training, swimming, and someone's dropping the Olympic medal in the pool while I'm trying to get my stroke right.
Amen, sister, because we need those Olympic medals dropped into our path so we can keep going. Oh my God, I love you so. Is there anything else you want to share before we have to leave at this point? To be continued, though, because this is so important.
Every heart has a part to play. Because as we said, peace is that wholeness. It's not a piece with the I. And so if just hearing this, anyone's heart is like, I feel like my part is on Sheva's team or Tess's team. I'd love for people to have a way to reach out to me and my team.
Yes.
And so there's a place on at heartambassadors.com and also heartmastery.com where you can sign up for a complimentary consult. At our nonprofit website, fiera.org, and I assume we could post all these somewhere.
Yes.
You can see the sustainable development work that we're doing around the world, including our peace building initiatives. We have projects that care for all 17 sustainable development goals under 12 umbrellas, and we send delegates to and consult to the United Nations, which is actually how Tess and I met originally, didn't we?
Yes.
And obviously the G20 but we have grassroots projects in Africa and Central America and there's a big playground here if you want to come play for peace.
And I say, go play with Sheva and play with us together.
Yeah.
But that's definitely, because I remember, oh my gosh, it was many years ago, and I was being introduced to Heart Math by you, and I was going through a really big struggle, and it was a betrayal and denial and pain and all kinds of things. And I remember pacing in my backyard in circles as you were like calming me down from the storm and getting me to be centered and getting me to breathe. And those tools have stayed with me. And so I strongly recommend everybody to follow the links that are right below in the screen and to connect with Sheva. I'm so honored to be able to witness you receiving, because I know a lot of activists, we don't know how to receive sometimes. It's so much easier to give, but for the yin and yang and the breath, the exhale and the inhale, you know what I'm saying?
Every time the heart beats, it feeds the whole body when it contracts.
Yes.
But when it expands, it receives all that blood back through the coronary arteries to nourish itself. So that giving and receiving that you're talking about is so important for sustainability of activism and peace building work. And in Heart Ambassadors, we really rely on the heart's intelligence to help us in that care for the world and self-care figure 8. And so, if it calls to anybody to come play for peace on our team.
Yes.
There's a free consult link on those websites where you can sign up and talk to our team and tell us what your passion and skills are. And we'd love to bring you out of the bleachers onto the playing field, because it's going to take us all to get from the practice pool
yes to the Olympic pool. So I'm throwing you an Olympic medal into the pool so you can swim. But I highly recommend anybody to reach out to Sheva and her team and the Heart Mastery Place and the Fiera Foundation. Everywhere that she is, you'll need to follow, because it's always a good time to be centered, to breathe, to have love in our hearts. Thank you for joining us right now, and we'll be right back with the next section of GWEN Talks.
So much.
You're welcome. I love you.
Love you so much.